Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my roommate's meal? I, a 20-year-old female, have a college roommate named Michelle, who is a 34-year-old female, with whom I share summer housing in our university's dorms. Michelle is super sweet to me, and despite our age gap, we get along really nicely. It's a great dorm situation, and I think Michelle sees me as a little sister. I mostly like to cook my meals in our dorm kitchen, but sometimes I treat myself to eating out. This is where the problem started. A lot of the time, Michelle will join me to eat out, either because she's free and I want company when my friends are busy, or because she invited me somewhere and I was free to come along. Lately, Michelle had been showering me with extra attention and even paying for most of my meals when we eat out. She's super generous with her money but has no job and is completely reliant on her parents. I always told her that it was fine and that I could pay for myself, but she always refused. One day, we went out to eat at a slightly nicer sushi restaurant to celebrate being done with midterms. Michelle is a bigger girl, so she ordered dumpling appetizers, 5 sushi rolls, and a drink. She usually orders 2 to 3 meals per restaurant we go to. I got 1 sushi roll and water because it was $10, $17 a roll, and I'm not a big eater. When we were halfway through the meal, Michelle suggested that it's my turn to pay for both our meals. I said, "What do you mean? We never set up any kind of agreement." She got really upset, claiming that she paid for all my other meals and it was my turn to pay her back now. I told her I'm grateful that she was generous enough to pay for my other meals, but I didn't know there was an expectation to return the favor, especially because she ordered disproportionately more food than me, and I couldn't afford that much for one meal. Michelle got angry and said something about how your parents are so rich you can afford anything, and how one meal won't break my bank. It's true that my parents are paying for my college expenses, and I'm eternally grateful that I won't end up with any debt. But they give me a strict monthly budget that covers my groceries and gas. All the money I use to treat myself comes from my summer job. I told her that, and she went silent for the rest of the meal. When we were finished, I made sure to ask for separate checks, and she hasn't said a word to me since. I'm really worried that this caused a rift in our friendship. Maybe I was being unreasonable, and I should have just paid for her meal. Am I the asshole? You haven't done anything wrong. The time to decide who pays is before you go out or before you order. At 34, your roommate should have learned some manners and not tried to trick you into paying for her meal. Don't go out with her anymore because everything she gives has huge strings attached. Am I the jerk for yelling at my dad and grandparents for standing by my older half-siblings over me? I am a 16-year-old male and an affair baby. My father's first wife was terminally ill, and he had an affair with my mother throughout the 2 years of her life. I was the result of that affair, born just after she died. My parents got married a month later, filed for divorce 4 months later, and my father got custody of me. My father's children from his first wife hated me. They hated him too, but they despised me. They called me disgusting, said I should never have been born, and told me they wished I could have died instead of their mother. It was awful. They were 11 and 12 years older than me, so they were old enough to be aware of what my father did and old enough to really hate me. My father married for a 3rd time when I was 5 years old, and he had 3 more children with my stepmother. My half-siblings cut contact with us, but we would see them at our grandparents' house sometimes. They used to be nicer, though not exactly loving, to my younger half-siblings. They would always make sure I could see them treating my younger half-siblings better. My stepmother would brush me off if I mentioned how they treated me. My father did nothing, and my grandparents used to scold me for not spending time with all my siblings during family holidays, which is when we saw them most frequently. If I mentioned why I was isolated, they would tell me it was all in my head. I had some really messed up self-esteem issues for a while. I also know my family treated me like it was no big deal because I am male. If I had been female, I can almost guarantee my feelings would have mattered more to my father and grandparents. So the yelling incident happened 2 weeks ago. We were all gathered to celebrate my grandmother's birthday. All the extended family were together, and my grandmother wanted a photo of all her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She has a few, including some from one of my half-siblings. My older half-siblings said they refused to be in a photo with me and refused to have their children be in a photo with me. They asked my grandmother if she really wanted a disgusting affair baby in the photo. My grandmother said, "Of course, we are all her grandchildren." One of my younger half-siblings asked what that meant, and one of my older half-siblings told them our father cheated on their mother and had me while their mother was dying, which made me disgusting. I was still expected to get in the photo. I looked to my father and my grandparents, who kept encouraging me to get in. That is when I lost it and started yelling at them for standing by my half-siblings more than me. I asked how they expected me to be okay after things like that are said and nobody says anything. I was scolded some more and grounded for ruining my grandmother's birthday and raising my voice at them. Am I the asshole? Wow, your relatives are truly awful. It is obvious you handled things appropriately, and their conduct going unpunished and uncorrected is outrageous. Finding a life with enriching friends, romances, and new family who know you for who you are seems like the best path forward. Your family is disgusting, and your father allowing them to treat you this way is just beyond words. Am I the jerk for prioritizing my career over my siblings' children? For context, I, a 28-year-old female, have a brother who is a 25-year-old male. He and his wife, a 25-year-old female, had twin boys about a year ago. The twins were unexpected, but even so, I would say they transitioned relatively smoothly into parenthood. My brother and his wife were both able to take time away from work to raise the twins. While my sister-in-law was able to stay home, my brother had to return to work since they were not expecting 2 babies. This led to my sister-in-law eventually going back to work early as well, which left them the issue of childcare. My brother and sister-in-law both work hard, and money was really tight for them, so they asked if I could take care of the babies a few days per week so they could cut down on costs. I am fortunate enough to work from home most days and live alone, so I agreed because it felt like something I could do for them and bond with the babies. We have had this arrangement going on since my brother and sister-in-law returned to work, and it was fine at first. Work was relatively slow, and I was happy to spend time with my nephews. However, taking care of them has created a strain, not only on myself but on my bank account as well, since they are growing. My brother and sister-in-law often work late, meaning I am feeding them dinner and taking care of them well into the evening. I have not put up much of a fuss, and I have not been charging them because of their financial situation. However, work has progressively been getting busier and has started to take more attention from me. I was also recently offered a higher position in the company, but it would require me to work fully in person. Today, while I was with my brother, I told him about my promotion and that I would not be able to take care of the twins anymore. He freaked out and called me a terrible sister, saying that I was abandoning my family. I was not really able to explain myself further because he left in a hurry, all angry. A couple of hours ago, I received some really nasty messages from my sister-in-law and my parents, saying that I am extremely selfish, disgusting, and shameful for choosing work over family. I know if I stop helping with childcare, my brother's family will suffer, so now I am rethinking my decision. You did nothing improper. You've done them an enormous favor by providing free childcare, and they should be grateful, not entitled and insulting. Those kids have 2 parents who decided to bring them into this world, and they are responsible for their care, not you. Take the new job, enjoy your promotion, and don't let them browbeat you into giving up your life and dreams. Am I the jerk because I went on a fancy night out with my little brother instead of my girlfriend? I live in New York City. I am not rich by any means, but I luckily inherited an apartment in my early 20s, so I'm not so poor that I can't afford to splurge for a night if I spend a few months saving for it since I don't pay New York City levels of rent. I do this a few times a year. This time, I had my eyes on a pretty exclusive restaurant. I made the reservations for 2 in January. I didn't have a girlfriend or intend on making a date out of this when I made the reservation. I just wanted to casually have fun and enjoy the food and drinks. A few weeks ago, I got a text reminder about my upcoming reservation, and I invited my girlfriend, who I've now been seeing for 5 months. She asked where the reservation was for, I told her, and she said it was too expensive. I told her of course it was on my dime, and she still said no, that it was too expensive, and she would feel too bad if I spent that much money on her. For the 3rd and final time I asked her, told her I was paying and wanted to pay for her, and she said no. I asked a few friends, and they all had plans or weren't interested, and then decided I would take my baby brother. On the day of the reservation, we got dressed to the nines, and we went to our reservation. Afterwards, we went to a fancy hotel and swam around in the pool. We walked around the city at 3 a.m., just having fun. Honestly, it was one of the best nights of my life just being a big kid with adult money with my baby brother. I told my girlfriend that verbatim when I got back to my apartment the next morning. She stayed the night with our shared cat. I didn't think I did anything wrong initially, but she started bawling her eyes out really heavily and telling me I had no idea how sad it was for her that I went out and had the time of my life while she was alone in my apartment. I asked why she was feeling so sad about it, and she said she thought I was planning something major and romantic, and that she was disappointed that I didn't try harder to get her to go. I didn't know what to do, so I apologized but reminded her firmly that I invited her multiple times. She said she really wanted to go but that she just felt bad that she couldn't pay for herself. I told her that sounds really immature. If I offer to do something and say I want to do it, and you say no, I don't think it's cool to cry to me about how much you wanted to go. I tried to explain this to her but she just cried harder. I don't know what to do. She has never acted like this. We don't argue at all. This is the healthiest relationship that I've ever seen or been in. I mean, I love her. I am really deeply in love with this girl, and I'm wondering if I handled anything about this the wrong way or insensitively. I told her that she was absolutely invited on my next excursion, and she said she would think about it, but that this ruined the idea of her going on one with me. You handled things appropriately, and honestly, her behavior sounds extremely immature. You asked her multiple times if she wanted to go, and she said no each time, so you took her at her word. This kind of mind game is the hallmark of someone who isn't ready for a healthy relationship. Sit her down and set clear expectations for communication. If she says something, you will take it as the truth, and mind games are a no-go. Would I be the jerk for suggesting my partner pays a bigger share of the bills because he does no housework? I have been with my partner for 2 years now. We moved in about 6 months ago to a 2-bedroom apartment. It's been good, aside from one thing, the mess. Dishes, clutter, tobacco everywhere from him rolling cigarettes and the laundry. Do not even get me started on the laundry. The literal skid marks in the toilet. I cannot deal with it. I clean all my own mess. I have repeatedly had to sit him down, like he is my child, and I do not want children, and tell him he has to pull his weight with the cleaning because he is an adult and he should. Even when I try to clean the house, it is hard to clean faster than he makes messes because he lets it build up. I am not his mother. I am not his maid. It is having to wait for him to clean something that really gets to me. If I could just do it myself instead of hearing, "I will do it today, I promise," it would be a lot better. He has acknowledged that it is disrespectful toward me. He has promised he will do better. But aside from the occasional 3 to 4 days where he picks up the slack, it has all just been words and empty promises. It is driving me nuts. I am willing to try one last thing before I tell him I want to find a place of my own because I cannot live in some student man cave, crack den. He pays the majority of the bills in exchange for cleaning being my job in our house. I propose that I pay my share of the rent and nothing else. He pays for everything else in exchange for my unpaid labor, hopefully, soon-to-be paid labor. If he is just incapable of being tidy, I may as well just make it my job and get something out of it. At the moment, we pay 50-50 with everything and we both work. He earns more than I do, and money is a struggle for me, so that takes the stress off me a bit financially. Instead of waiting for him to get up and clean, I have peace of mind knowing it is done. Who knows, maybe I will even make a PowerPoint about it. My slogan could be, "Not a maid, unless I get paid." So Reddit, would I be the asshole for suggesting my partner pays a bigger portion of household bills to make up for me having to clean up after him? I worry I might be because I know some people do not necessarily value unpaid labor in the household. You behaved properly. Holy fuck, you are far more patient than most people would have been. Make him pay for a maid service instead of having you clean up his disgusting mess. Life does not always allow you to be his maid. Imagine the pileup of mess if you had to stay off your feet for 6 months because of a broken leg. Just break up, they don't change. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep the peace by apologizing? Last night, I, an 18-year-old female, cooked dinner for my younger brother, who is a 14-year-old male, and myself. For the past 3 weeks, I have struggled with my appetite and have barely managed 1 meal a day. It's been so bad that I've been called in for a last-minute hospital appointment to do some investigations. I had barely eaten anything yesterday, having had only 2 pieces of toast and a bag of crisps. When serving dinner, my brother only wanted a small portion. I hate food waste, so I put the rest in my bowl, even though I probably wasn't going to eat all of it. The moment I sat down, my mom looked at the bowl. It's one of those fancy bowls that are 2 cm deep, and said, "That's a massive portion," and literally scoffed. I told her that it really wasn't. It is just a shallow bowl. She insisted the bowl was huge and there was loads in there. I said I had roughly the same portion as my brother, who also scoffed and said, "You really don't. That's huge." I explained that the meat, it was bolognese, had all fallen to the bottom, which was propping my spaghetti up, to which my dad started laughing at me. She kept saying how huge the portion was, so I left everything and went to my room. As I left, I heard my mom say, "Just let her strop." And then, "But look at it, it's a humongous portion," and they all laughed. I went to my room, and over the course of the next few hours, I didn't receive any apology. I had also left my phone, so they knew they couldn't text me. It is now the next day. My dad is telling me to apologize to them for storming off and leaving my food. I won't. I always end up apologizing for being upset with the things they say to me to keep the peace. But for me, this was too far. I can't prove to you that the portion really wasn't massive, but you'll just have to take my word for it. However, even if it was, I don't think that's an excuse for what was said. I'm not overweight, and I'm also struggling to eat. My mom should have been happy that I was eating. I'm being called all kinds of names for not just apologizing, and I've been told that she doesn't want to speak to me until my doctor's appointment in 3 days. Am I the asshole for refusing to just get over it and apologize to keep the peace? You are not the jerk. This is one of those times when stupid arguments are started for no reason. Being in that environment isn't going to help resolve issues with an appetite. It sounds like your mom picked a pointless argument just to argue. What your mom did could have caused or worsened an eating disorder. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.